Earlier this week, both CNN and The Washington Post reported that the U.S. intelligence community believes that 40 to 45% of the bombs that Israel has dropped in Gaza were unguided, so-called dumb bombs, as opposed to precision munitions, which are much more accurate. Israel says it has struck over 22,000 terror targets in Gaza since the Hamas attacks on October 7th. An Israeli military spokesman defended the use of unguided bombs, telling the NewsHour in a statement that, quote, the IDF strikes military targets of the Hamas terrorist organization based on high-quality intelligence, while using high-quality munitions that are operated by skilled pilots and advanced systems. The type of munitions used in each strike is determined according to the characteristics of the target, the operational need, and the effort to mitigate harm to civilians. Two perspectives now on the Israeli use of unguided bombs in Gaza. Retired Lieutenant General David Deptula had a 36-year career in the Air Force and played major roles in planning American bombing campaigns in numerous wars, including Iraq in 1991 and Afghanistan in 2001. And Marc Garlasco was the chief of high-value targeting at the Defense Intelligence Agency from 1997 to 2003. He led teams that planned attacks while limiting civilian deaths. He then worked for Human Rights Watch, where he investigated attacks against civilians. With the welcome to you both. Marc, I'll start with you. What's your reaction to reports that 40 to 45% of the bombs that Israel is dropping in Gaza have been unguided?
Well, honestly, I'm really shocked. You know, there's three reasons that you want to use precision-guided munitions. You want to destroy your target with minimal civilian harm while upholding the laws of war. And there's nothing that's going to do a better job of doing that than a precision-guided munition, especially compared to an unguided bomb. Precision-guided munitions, you're looking at about a 3-meter error, and an unguided bomb, you could have upwards of missing your target by 100 feet. That's highly problematic. And let's just look at U.S. practice. In 91, 8% of all bombs dropped on Iraq were precision. In 99, there were 33% of the bombs dropped on Serbia were precision. Then in 02 and 03, we had 65% of all bombs were precision guided for Afghanistan and Iraq. And by Libya in 2011, it was 100%. But really, it's not just the use of unguided munitions that's leading to so many civilian deaths in Gaza. It's the choices that Israel's making of not applying civilian harm mitigation, of not using smaller weapons and with less blast and fragmentation like the GBU-39 that they could be using. And this is why we're seeing upwards of 20,000 dead Palestinians right now.
General Deptula, I want to get your reaction to what Marc Garlasco just had to say. And why is it okay for Israel to use unguided bombs when the U.S. doesn't use them anymore?
Well, Geoff, what I'd tell you is the use of a weapon is highly dependent upon the effects that need to be accomplished, the collateral damage concerns regarding a particular target, and the accuracy of the weapon system in its entirety, not just the bomb itself. A dumb bomb delivered by a smart aircraft can still be accurate. So there are legitimate reasons to use low-cost dumb bombs. An example is hitting a weapon storage location in an area where intelligence has determined there are no collateral damage or civilian casualty concerns. In other cases, there are fleeting targets that don't allow for the process of obtaining coordinates for GPS-guided weapons or obstacles that prevent a laser-guided delivery. So the pilot with a precise delivery system can quickly get to the target and deliver accurately before the opportunity evaporates. The bottom line is I've seen the exquisite care the Israeli Defense Force takes to avoid civilian casualties. They have extraordinarily stringent rules for avoiding collateral damage. And I'm told by a very good source that Israel only uses dumb bombs after they clear an area.
Marc, your response to the notion that unguided bombs can be dropped in a precise way. And is Israel using these weapons because they don't have enough precision-guided bombs in their arsenal?
Well, I certainly agree that unguided weapons can be used in an accurate way in certain circumstances. But we're talking here about 10 to 15,000 unguided bombs being dropped in one of the most densely populated parts of the Earth. And this is incredibly dangerous. Now, looking at the weapons transfers that are put publicly out by the Defense Security Cooperation Agency, we can see that over 35,000 guided weapons have been provided to Israel in recent years, And that doesn't include the weapons that were provided just this year, and that right now is classified. But let's take again a look at US practice. When I was in the Pentagon and conducting targeting there for the Iraq War, for example, in 2003, we were dropping munitions in Baghdad and throughout different cities in Iraq. And at no time did I ever have a weaponeer suggest to me that we should use an unguided munition. And let's take a look at a very similar conflict, right? Let's look at Raqqa in Syria, where the U.S. was involved with a lot of aerial munitions. There's a great story. There's a quote there from a pilot talking about how you have all of these buildings around a densely populated area, the enemy commingled with civilians, and the pilot asks, how am I supposed to fly the plane and drop a bomb down an alleyway? And the answer that the report comes up with is precision-guided munitions.
General, when President Biden described Israel's bombing campaign as indiscriminate, as he did this past week, I'd imagine you take issue with that.
Yeah, actually, I would. It was an extraordinarily unfortunate and indiscriminate use of the term indiscriminate attacks. And I think definitions are important here. In accordance with the international humanitarian law, indiscriminate attacks are defined as, first, attacks which are not directed at specific military objectives. Second, attacks which employ a means of combat that cannot be directed at a specific military objective. Or third, attacks which employ a means of combat the effects of which cannot be limited as required by international humanitarian law, and consequently are of a nature to strike military objectives and civilians or civilian objects without distinction. None of these situations apply to the Israeli Air Force.
That is retired Lieutenant General David Deptula and Marc Garlasco. We thank you both for your insights.
Thank you.
You bet, Jeff. Thank you.